So the Artificer is one of, if not the most disregarded character in Risk of Rain 2, despite also actually being one of the best and most consistent in the entire game. Hopefully this introduction will be able to change the outlook of that by demonstrating and explaining the character in a little bit better of a light. So the Artificer, if you couldn't tell, is my favorite character. It's a mage, but I should really start off by saying that the character is not your average free mouse one spam type of gameplay similar to Commando. This character is actually, much like the Mercenary, has a pretty steep learning curve and might take a bit of time to learn, understand, and get used to. The Artificer has one of the more unique set of abilities, that is being a series of spells that it casts, with some being projectiles, some being hit scan, and some having unique mechanics such as the Ice Wall. Jumping right into the abilities, the left mouse button is a series of fireballs. Now these do have a stack size and a cooldown, however the cooldown is very quick. The next attack is the Nano Bomb, and the Nano Bomb is a chargeable right-click ability that actually arcs to enemies as it passes by, but also does very high single target impact damage with an AoE explosion. I don't think I really need to explain why this ability is incredibly good for clearing piles of ads. The next ability is the Snap Freeze. This is also known as the Ice Wall. The best part about this ability is it has a unique attribute in which any enemy stunned by it will die instantly if it's below a certain HP threshold. I believe it's around 25%. So this ability is not really the best in terms of damage output. However, for clearing ads and killing, like you can see, 2 elite beetle guards in this clip get completely destroyed because they're at a certain HP threshold and are hit by the Ice Wall, and as a result instantly die. And finally we have the Flamethrower. This is what I would regard to be as the best actual boss DPS for this character. What it does is it just shoots a hit scan short range beam of fire and quite literally melts enemies. Now that I've spoon-fed and explained all the abilities and the attacks, I can go into a little bit of a damage philosophy or an attack rotation. I'd pay attention because this somehow still manages to be more complex in current day WoW. I use the left mouse button, that is the fire bolts, in order to fill in gaps in the attack rotation. That is when the right click or the bomb is on cooldown and I don't really want to use the Flamethrower just yet. The right mouse button or the bomb is good for AoE and hard single target, so that is taking down a lot of health from an elite, possibly starting a rotation on a boss, getting a really good set of ukulele or AoEs, a Tesla coil chain, etc. off, because it does do AoE and those do proc for every single hit. And the left shift is good for finishing tank enemies, such as the Beetle Guard, the Stone Golem, etc. when they're at quite a bit of low health. It's also good for just general boss DPS, but there are much better things to do. It's also just used as a filler for me in most cases. The Flamethrower is all around great DPS. It quite literally melts enemies. Burns through bosses, burns through elites, everything. Definitely one of the best sources of damage in the entire. If you want a TLDL, that is too long, didn't listen. You start with Charge Nano Bomb, use all your fire bolts, use your Flamethrower, then use your Ice Wall, if applicable. Obviously, your rotation is going to differ based on every scenario, so you'll have to be a good improviser. The best players are the best improvisers. Moving right along into the item build and stat priority kind of philosophy. Attack speed is pretty pointless. It does speed up your fire bolts, and I think it speeds up the rate at which your Flamethrower is consumed, which is cool and all, but like why would you ever do that? I mean, that's not really a lot of your DPS aside from Flamethrower, but even then that's like a 2% difference or something. Crit and bleed are good, but you want to prioritize area of effect, that is AoE, and defensive items such as portable shield generator, teddy bears, Tesla coil, ukulele, gasoline, will-o'-the-wisp. Lunars and reds, you probably want to get the Transcendence item, that is the beetle that sets all of your health into shields. Corpse Bloom is garbage, don't ever pick it up. Shaped Glass is also pretty bad unless you get Transcendence. Tesla coil and ukulele are like max level importance. In Afterburner, I don't think I need to tell you that you don't need Afterburner for this character. So this is a little image that I made. and some free time, showing kind of what the priority in the setup of items that I would try to gather in order of importance. This is strictly opinionated. Lunars weren't included because I find that lunar items are so situational and so weird that sometimes I just have to make a decision of what do I want this or not. Besides Transcendence, that is the beetle. The little beetle. Going into equipment, I feel like equipments are pretty self-explanatory. Like, you want the BFG or the Prion Accumulator. If you don't have that unlocked, the Royal Capacitor is just fine. The missile launcher is third for me because boss DPS really comes down to your equipment, and Ocular HUD if all else fails. Just some final notes to wrap everything up. First off is positioning is everything with this character. If you have bad positioning, your DPS is going to be bad, you're going to have a bad time in general. Doesn't mean you have to be across the map shooting fireballs for 5 hours to kill the first boss, but that means placing yourself in an area where you can rotate out easily and all that kind of jazz. Second off is survivability will always be over raw DPS with this character, which is why we don't stack things like tons and tons of bleed and tons of attack speed like you would see on a commando. Speed items are super important because you move like a slug due to having no movement ability, which is pretty unfortunate, but pretty cool watching this mage fly around the map at Mach 40. And finally, you don't have to like this character. Like, for instance, I hate Engineer because he's the equivalent to watching paint dry, and I would rather throw bricks at a wall.
It's happening.
That's about all I have to say.
I mean, this is my second